Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jerry with Dub Bears Talk, and today I'm going to be talking about the skill position players that I think the Bears should go for in the later rounds. There's between tight end, wide receiver, running back. I do think that there's a lot of depth in this draft for a few of those positions, and I'm surprised with how low the running backs have all fallen. So I wanted to highlight a couple that I'm a big fan of and that I think will have success in the NFL, and I also think will fit the Bears. So I'll get into it in just a moment. Just don't forget to like the video. Helps get the video out to more people. And comment down below who your favorite later round skill position guy is. All of these guys are going to be probably like late second round or later as far as where they're at and where they're being drafted in most mocks, or at least where they're valued. Just to give you an idea, and I'll try to highlight exactly where they're being taken in mock drafts at the moment and why it would be beneficial for the Bears. Some of these guys even much later, where you are probably taking this player in a trade back scenario. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe as well. We're trying to hit 500 subscribers. So let's get right into it. I'm going to start off with the one tight end that I have, Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State. I don't really think there's too many tight ends worthy of taking past Brock Bowers in this draft. Brock Bowers really stands out. I like Ben Sinnott. I don't even think he's a fantastic fit. He's more of a vertical threat, but I like him out of Kansas State. So I'll move on from that. Again, I'm not huge on taking a tight end here. I think we have Cole Kmet, who I believe is a top 7 or 8 tight end in the league. I don't think you could argue he's out of the top 10, as well as Gerald Everett, who's likely a top 32 tight end. I think he'd be tight end 1 on a few other teams. So he's probably top 32, top 30 tight end. And Shane Waldron likes to use the two tight end personnel, the 21 personnel, but I think I don't see that as big enough of a need for us to attack that position. And you could say the same about running back, although I do have a few more running backs on the list. First one's probably the worst fit, but I think really good value depending on what route the Bears decide to go, and that's Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin. 6'2", 240. He just turned 20 years old, and he was getting compared to Derrick Henry out of high school. Graduates early, goes to college, and plays college early. That's how he was 19 up until a few months ago, and is in the NFL draft right now. Didn't run any official 40 times. It's quoted that he's ran a 4.4. A lot of people think it'd be closer to a 4.5. If you watch him on the field, he is constantly outrunning most defenders on the field when he gets into open space, which is huge for him. He also had one of the highest bench reps of any player actually in this draft, much less just the halfbacks. But I believe he was in the 97th percentile for the entirety of the class. Like, he had more bench reps than Dallas Turner at 26 reps. So if that puts that into perspective, in this Derrick Henry comp at 6'2", 240, 4.40, and 26 reps on the bench press, that is a huge weapon of a player. And again, I think you're probably only using him if you're moving on from Khalil Herbert or Roschon Johnson, which I don't think you should do yet. I think they both would deserve an opportunity. But I also think Shane Waldron would be able to utilize him well, except the biggest problem is Caleb Williams, who is likely going to be our quarterback, definitely will perform better in an air raid, passing offense. And Braylon Allen isn't really looked at as a very big wide receiver threat. He doesn't really have much of a route tree at all, and his pass blocking needs work. So that's why I don't think he's a huge fit. But another Wisconsin native, Isaac Ruendo, out of Louisville last year, played at Wisconsin every year prior, who was a track star in, I believe, high school and college. And he ran a 4.33 40 at 6 foot 220. That's a big guy to be moving that fast. He was a track star and is very good with that straight line, the acceleration, and the top speed. But as far as elusiveness and getting out of cuts, that's kind of where he lacks. He'll also tend to dance around a bit in the backfield, kind of like Braylon Allen would. So I don't see this as much of a fit either. It's just Braylon Allen and Isaac Ruendo have been mocked in like third or later, fourth, fifth later, and I just don't see why they're kind of getting that hate, because they have the size, the strength, and the speed to perform just as well as some of these running backs that were taken at the top last year. I don't want to say that they're comparable to like Bijan Robinson or anything, but if you look at all the measurables and you look at like any Braylon Allen highlight reel, you will see a lot of just outrunning everybody, stiff arming people to the ground. He's a powerful runner and can kind of do it all as far as running the ball. He has good vision too. So you've got all that going for you there. I don't see running back as a huge need either, though, for the Bears, because we do have DeAndre Swift. We have Khalil Herbert, who can get touches and has kind of proved that he's a very good running back to come in when your main guy needs a rest. And then you've got Roschon Johnson, who we all believe can be the better pass blocking option and hopefully pass catching option next to DeAndre Swift. And that can all be good and well there. But another guy who I think would be a huge weapon for Shane Waldron, with how I believe he could use a running back spread out wide, or let's say they end up, kind of a gadget guy, kind of like a Velus Jones that would work out hopefully, is Dylan Laub. At 5'10", 220, people are calling him like a modern day Danny Woodhead, which if you remember, Danny Woodhead is this shorter, stockier white guy that is just a great pass catcher, caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl for the Patriots. Danny Woodhead did. And Dylan Laub, he's got like that same like skater boy haircut, and he's just a very shifty white guy. He can run pretty much most of the routes you would want a running back to. You could spread him out wide and he would be effective, and he's very, very shifty. He ran a 4.5 40, so he doesn't have that top end speed and the best acceleration, but as far as being shifty, he will fake you out, and he's very agile towards the top as far as the three cone, but as far as 40 time and vert and everything else, he did not look great there. He's also about to turn 25 years old, so that's another problem, and actually makes the Velus Jones comparison even more comparable with taking him as late as the Bears, late as the Bears did in his lifetime. And then moving on to wide receivers, we're going to kind of start with the earlier picks and the guys where you're probably going to have to trade up. It would kind of, if you're getting them in the third, they're probably just falling. And that first one's going to be Xavier Legette. I don't see him going into, past the very early third round. He's probably a late second round guy. But in this situation where the Bears trade back, if they acquire a late second or an early third round pick, or something happens and Legette falls, I think he's a great option. Not necessarily that he's a sleeper pick, but 6'1", 220, 4'3", 940, 40-inch vertical, 12.6 broad jump. Combine kind of dominated. He's a bigger guy, kind of comparable to A.J. Brown as far as size, or Treylon Burks is one that hasn't quite worked out. But Legette with his size and speed can be great, and he's good for contested catches. And which he's going to need a lot more of, because he doesn't get a lot of separation. That's one of his biggest problems. On a vertical route where he's running straight down the field, he could outrun people and he could get separation that way. But as far as on a route, he's not the greatest at like making a cut or a fake with his head or any sort of those moves. He is going to try to be bigger, faster, stronger than you and make a contested catch. That's basically what his bread and butter is. And he also does have a bit of a problem of catching with his pads that I noticed. You want to catch the ball with your hands, so that's a minor little thing that could be worked out. But Xavier Legette, if he was to fall into the third round, or the Bears got a pick in the second, and we don't take Rome Odunze with the 9 pick, I think that would be a huge addition to the Bears offense moving forward. And then one of my personal favorites, Xavier Legette, just said Xavier Legette, is Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. He might have the biggest catch radius in the entirety of the class. Yes, there's people that are taller than him. One that I will talk about in a little bit here that is a lot taller and like just by nature would have a larger catch radius. But Ricky Pearsall's hands, I'm sure everybody's seen the crazy one-handed snag that he had, and that wasn't his only one. He had multiple catches. Seems like when he's catching the ball, there's just glue on his hands, and that's what I love. Is he's a very reliable target. He is 6'1", 190, which is a little skinny, and he was not great as far as blocking goes, which I don't think is something Ryan Poles is really going to like for him there. But his catch radius, just being, like I said, one of the largest that there is. And for his size, running a 4.41 40 and having a 42.5-inch vertical with just shy of a 13-foot broad jump is huge. And with really his only problem as far as route running is sometimes his timing is off, which definitely can hurt a quarterback and can affect that whole situation. So not something to just sweep over. Definitely something to keep in mind. But I really like Ricky Pearsall, and I do think that he could go into the third. He is mocked, and I know he's ranked like right around the late 60s, 70s, which is kind of an early third round ranking. But I think he could fall. I think if, not as many teams take the earlier on receivers as you'd think, I think he could fall into the Bears' lap. Or again, trade back scenario, I think he could be there. The last one that, you might have to rely on a trade up or acquiring a pick and a trade back that I really think would be huge for the Bears is Tez Walker out of UNC. Was getting the ball thrown to him by Drake May, but at 6'2", 193, 4.36 40, 40.5-inch vertical, and a 13-foot 4-inch broad jump is one of the better combine performances that was there. And with the size at 6'2", almost 200, he's kind of approaching Rome Odunze size. For all the people that love Rome Odunze, Tez Walker does also have a large catch radius, and I think the biggest problem for him is he also doesn't get a lot of separation. He has a smaller route tree as well, and he just doesn't seem to have the quickness and the explosiveness that some other guys have, especially off the line. So I think that would be your biggest downside there. But getting the height, weight, speed for as late as he's being valued with the catching, he is still great at catching the football. Kind of roams into the Xavier Legette category as far as, you're probably going to have to rely on some more catches in traffic. Although Tez Walker is definitely better at getting separation than Legette by all means. But I just think with where you're getting him, I think this is kind of like, I don't know if he would be worth taking unless you're getting him with that third round pick and he just falls to 75 for you. So Tez Walker out of UNC, though, I think would be a huge pickup for the Bears in that third round if he's still available. And then one of the largest catch radiuses that I wanted to talk about is Brendan Rice, a teammate of Caleb Williams, which I think is the biggest reason for him being on my list. And I think he's honestly towards the top as far as value. I don't think he's one of the best that I'm mentioning today. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Ricky Pearsall, but you're likely having to get him in the second round or some sort of a trade up or acquiring of a pick to get him. And I think being able to get Brendan Rice at the third round or even possibly the fourth round, especially, with it being a later round pick, I think you could take somebody else with the third if you're not super crazy about him, and then end up, if Brendan Rice falls, then I just think he's going to be a huge weapon. We haven't seen the sons of a lot of successful wide receivers work out necessarily. So Tariq Owens is also technically in this draft class. Doesn't seem like he's going to get drafted, but that's Terrell Owens' son. So he has not had a whole lot of success. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. is showing out and doing well here. And then there's another one. Thaddeus Moss was Randy Moss's son, who played tight end, and I don't think he made it more than a season or two in the NFL, and then he was out. So not always a good reason, but Jerry Rice is the GOAT of wide receivers, and being around him all your life definitely would have an effect on your game, I would assume. But Brendan Rice, let's go over. So he's 6'3", 210, 4.5 40, so not great there, but he was recorded at a top speed of 23 miles an hour, which is usually one of the highest in the NFL. So although he's might not have the greatest acceleration, at the very most, with a stride, he could reach 23 miles an hour, which is very fast in pads. But I think the biggest problem with him is his inconsistencies. Sometimes he'll dance at the line of scrimmage trying to get out of a route, and I think your biggest reason for him here is, I always like to put it this way because it just makes it sound like a no-brainer, but you're getting a guy that's 6'3", 210. He's Jerry Rice's son, and one of Caleb Williams' favorite targets in college, and you're getting this guy to be a safety blanket. You're not getting him to be Caleb Williams wide receiver one. You're getting him to be behind Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, which, mind you, we don't have a lot of size at that position. So getting a guy that it's 6'3", or some people have even said 6'4" in Brendan Rice, you're adding height to that. And in a lot of these situations where Caleb Williams is having to roll out and keep his eyes downfield and look for a target, Brendan Rice was very good at improvising and finding an open space so Caleb can get him the ball. And I think having that chemistry coming into the NFL would probably just be one of the largest safety blankets for a rookie quarterback, aside from getting a very good offensive lineman to back him up. But I really like him there, as well as the reason you could get him in the third or the fourth round. I think to be able to get that sort of a name and that sort of a friend of your quarterback in the third or fourth round is unheard of. People talk about Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and all the pairings of wide receiver quarterback that can happen. And I think that could be the next one. I'm not saying Brendan Rice is Jamar Chase by any means, but again, I just think the value is immaculate being able to get him in the third or the fourth round. Right next to another USC player, Taj Washington, who was another favorite target of Caleb. I believe he got more receptions, but Brendan Rice did end up with more touchdowns. So Taj Washington, also a very reputable receiver for Caleb Williams, another nice safety blanket. The problem you have with Taj Washington is he's 5'10", 174. So he is not a great size, very small for a to be a receiver on your team. And he's not very athletic either. 4'5", 40. Typically if you're that much smaller, you usually want to have some quickness. But the big benefit of Taj Washington, and why I think it could be, if you can't get Brendan Rice, even if you trade back and you get a fifth, I think you can get Taj Washington in the fifth. Maybe there's a situation where with their third round pick, all the guys are gone. They trade back 10 spots and acquire a fifth or something along those lines. If you can get Taj Washington, he was also very good with his improvisational skills with Caleb Williams. When the play breaks loose and you got to figure something out, he was good at getting open for Caleb, and he was also a good run blocker for his size. Some would say a great run blocker for his size. Now, he's very small. So was Darnell Mooney, who was on our team, but Darnell Mooney was also one of our better run blockers. So keeping that in mind, and with how Poles likes to be able to utilize the run game, I don't think you'd want to get Taj Washington to use him as a run blocker, especially at 5'10", 174. But for his size, and he can get a little bit, thicken up a little bit, I think he would be a great weapon. Again, if we're talking about a third wide receiver as a safety blanket that you can get acquiring an extra pick in the fifth round or so, I don't know if it'd really be worth it to take him in the fourth. But I think getting him with a later pick, if you acquire it later, to get Caleb a safety blanket that has chemistry with him as far as the improvisation, that can also be a strong run blocker when you need it, I think would be a great addition for the Bears. Along with the last one, which I probably should have put him earlier maybe, because this is not very overwhelming, but Luke McCaffrey, really just another name. I'm not super high on Luke McCaffrey. I just think some of these family guys, taking a chance on him, this is another guy, like if you can get him in the 5th to 7th round, I think it would be beneficial. I like the size at 6'2", 200. 4'4", 640 is pretty good for the size. He just has a small route tree. Also, didn't really get much separation over there at Rice. So another problem there, mainly because he actually started off at quarterback. I think that was the other reason that I kind of threw him in here, is it would be kind of fun. He played quarterback a little bit freshman year, I believe, and I know out of high school he played quarterback. So getting a guy that could throw the ball and get some special trick plays, I know the Bears in general are about that. I don't know, obviously there was some trick plays with Luke Getsy. I don't know if Shane Waldron's going to be that way, but I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to slot that in there, and Luke McCaffrey would be your guy, other than I believe Roschon Johnson had some quarterbacks. So you probably do that with him too. But getting a guy that can do multiple things is exciting. But yeah, so that's my list of all of our sleepers that I think for skill positions that the Bears should go for. Again, prioritizing wide receiver. I think it's going to be tough to go running back. with the running back room that we have already, as well as tight end. We're going to need another one, but I just don't see it as being a huge value to where you'd want to try to take one to be a sleeper. But I would say my favorites that are going to be doable is definitely going to be Brendan Rice. I think he's my favorite of all of these options to get in the third or the fourth round. There's too much upside there, and getting a safety blanket that has chemistry with Caleb is going to be very important moving up. Again, this would also be considering we're not getting Rome Odunze. I don't think it would be as valuable to get a wide receiver if you're already getting Rome Odunze with the 9th pick. Next to that, I think Ricky Pearsall would be a huge addition with his catch radius, and it would be a cool deep threat for Caleb to just be able to throw the ball up and then see this guy make amazing catches. So let me know who your favorite is down below. Like I said, mine's Brendan Rice, but let me know down below. Thank you for watching, and bear down.